All right, almost exactly 7 years ago today, the last U.S. troops pulled out of Iraq under different president. Since then, in the wake of the explosive growth of ISIS, thousands of troops have returned to the country. And under this president, Iraq could be a key to keeping a lid on violence in that region.
We see something happening with ISIS that we don't like. We can hit them so fast and so hard, they really won't know what the hell happened. We've knocked them silly. It's time for us to start using our head. We don't want to be taken advantage anymore by countries that use us.
All right, let's bring in retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, who is also former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. Great to have you with us, sir.
Good to be with you. Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to you. And our president took a Merry Christmas to our troops over in Iraq. What does that do for morale for folks there on the front lines?
Well, it can't do anything but pump them up. I mean, to have the President of the United States visit them is a very big deal. And the timing couldn't be better in terms of the President being able to get his message out on what his intentions are with regards to Syria. But I think this is nothing but a positive for the President, even though I don't personally agree with his decision on Syria.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Former NATO commander Wesley Clark, who has run for president as a Democrat, had a very interesting theory that he's floating. He says people are talking about it. Here's his take.
Some of our friends and allies in the Middle East are asking, well, did Erdogan blackmail the president? Was there a payoff or something?
That's a pretty interesting charge to level.
Yeah, I think General Clark probably is rethinking that, and I hope, because I've known him for a long time, I hope that he will try to set the record straight there. Look, first of all, I don't trust Erdogan either, and I don't think anybody that's been watching what's going on in Syria trusts Erdogan, particularly when it comes to going into an area that is occupied primarily by Kurds. After decades of the Turks chasing the Kurds, even killing many of the Kurds in Turkey, I don't trust Erdogan here in this situation.
Yeah, and that's clearly one of the issues that people have who are opposed to this pullout of Syria, saying that the Kurds there are going to be left in a very vulnerable position. Molly Hemingway had a really interesting piece in The Federalist called Trump's Syria withdrawal policies correct but communicated horribly. She says this about the Kurd issue. She says the reality is that Assad has won the civil war and the Kurds have already begun negotiating with him. We can play a role there, but we do not owe them endless protection. I mean, they've been an important ally for us in key conflicts over there. What do we owe the Kurds?
Well, we owe the Kurds certainly some kind of guarantee of their security and their support in the future. Go back to Iraq. First of all, we left the Kurds after the first Gulf War. We walked off and abandoned them, and over 30,000 of them were killed by Saddam Hussein. And then you look at when we pulled out of Iraq 7 years ago, we sort of left the Kurds to their own devices. They've been fighting against really the Shia militias as well as the Sunnis ever since we left them there, and we have provided them almost nothing. Anything we've tried to send them, we've sent through Baghdad, and it gets siphoned off to either the Iranians or it gets siphoned off to some of the militias there in Iraq. So we have not done right by the Kurds. This would be the third time that we've abandoned them. That is not a good thing for us to do because, especially with our special operations people, the Kurds have been very key to them being able to operate.
Okay, let's look ahead now to the president and the selection of a new defense secretary. Christian Whitten, he was an advisor to both President Trump and President George W. Bush. Here's a little bit what he wrote about. He says, with Democrats gaining control of the House of Representatives on January 3rd, it will become far more important for President Trump to have a defense secretary who can be an effective advocate for presidential policies. The next Pentagon chief needs to be both an advocate for President Trump's vision of America's military role in the world and a political pro who can install a pro-Trump network at the Defense Department. There were some critiques that there weren't a lot of pro-Trumpers installed in the Pentagon under this current defense secretary. What's your take?
Well, I think that's probably the case. I'm not sure that General Mattis was aligned with the president on a lot of issues that the president felt very strongly about. I think that General Mattis was probably left of center That said, that doesn't mean he wasn't an effective defense secretary. But I will say this. I think he did exactly the right thing, unlike Leon Panetta and Bob Gates. When he could no longer support the president's policies, he resigned. That is the honorable thing to do, rather than stay with it, support bad policies, and then get out and write a book and try to salvage your own reputation. Mattis did the right thing.
Or write anonymous pieces for the New York Times. Yeah, a lot of people respect him for stepping up and saying what he needed to say, felt he needed to say. General, thank you for joining us tonight. If we don't see you, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Shannon. Glad to be with you.
Thank you, sir. All right.